Welcome to the American Intelligence Media. I'm your host, Douglas Gabriel, also known as Thomas Paine in the Ass of the Globalists, and I'm so proud of that name because, remember, Thomas Paine wasn't really an American, but he wrote a little pamphlet, two pamphlets actually, which seeded the American Revolution, and that's what we're trying to do here. That's why we invite people like Michael McKibben on the show. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Douglas. Great to talk to you.
You are a true patriot, and you are always leading the charge. The problem is that you're underground in the mines. Nobody even knows you're down there. I think that your wife probably is about ready to disown you. I looked from your messages to me yesterday and today that you didn't come up out of the mines last night. So the big question is, do you sleep down there?
No, I come up.
You come up sometimes. Okay. So today you have
Yeah.
a find for us. You just told me a little bit about it, and I said, "Oh no! Let's just do this fresh." I don't know what you're talking about, but this is incredibly important. This is breaking news. This is if I'm just going to give my really short thing on it. What I think you just told me, and then please tell us all about this gold nugget. Actually, a whole cart full of gold nuggets that you've pulled up here, and that's something to do with proof that Google wrote contracts with the three-letter agencies so that the three-letter agencies always had access to everything Google? And does that also mean YouTube and your Gmail and your location and every single Google that you ever did? I mean, is that what you're saying?
It's a contract with Google search engine that the CIA let in 2004. Now, by the way, I can't take credit for this. This came from global miners, other people. But they were so excited, they sent me a copy, and then I took a look at it, and I go, oh my gosh. This was not released until 2015 under a FOIA, and it is the original contract discussions with Google to license the Google search engine, and it also contains very telling contract term changes where the CIA would pay to have Google engineers dip into the search engine so many times a month under the fees.
So then Google is an extension of the government?
Yes, I'm sure.
And as we have talked about, especially me, I've raved on about this for 2.5 years or more. Mimics was a government DARPA project that is behind all the Google searches, and also Yahoo, all of them have to build upon a thing called Mimics, which became open source. And so you can't really say that Google was invented by some genius, no, and it wasn't Brin and Page, no. It was Mimics. And Mimics was the intelligence community's dark web search engine. And remember, they invented the dark web for entrapment purposes, for money laundering, for human trafficking, for pornography, and all of that stuff. And that's why crypto coins were invented, so that you could do it online and they could track you back to where you were, because, of course, the people who created the internet, the DARPA geniuses, ARPA, it was called to begin with, the ARPANET, they, of course, have control of it. So what you now have is proof, because I've been saying this for a long time, but I never had proof. I never had a document that could prove it.
No, this is an actual contract that the CIA released, and it shows the sequence of events up to. It took them about a year of negotiating back and forth to get the terms all finalized. But for anybody that's tried selling to the government, people will enjoy one of the faxes that the CIA contracting officer sent to Google, saying that he was really hot to trot to get this contract, and the money was burning a hole in his pocket. I never had a government person ever contact me like that. So it was the CIA that was pushing the contract. So what we clearly see was going on. And by the way, let me talk about the timing of that. The Google contracting officer was a gentleman by the name of Jon Venverloh, who is also the chief technology officer now of Salem Media Group, which is the conservative radio syndicator, as well as a very senior Google executive. He's doing some sort of dual role, I guess. And so the conversation back and forth is with him and another person at Google. But Venverloh was the one that was doing the negotiation and pitching the terms, and they were discussing little nuances in the term of service. But the discussion started in November of 2003, which would have been days after Zuckerberg hacked the house sites at Harvard on October 28th of 2003, and was the same date that we had just debugged a real key module in our source code that Chandler would have known about, and that really set the ball rolling for the emergence, like a phoenix, of social media within months after that. On February 4th, Facebook went live, Gmail went live, blogs and wikis went live. That was a critical time when the IBM Eclipse Foundation had given away all of our innovations into all of these companies, one of which would have been Google, which then also became YouTube and Gmail and the like. And you've talked about this before, and what is really clear, the strategy change was these clever lawyers in Washington decided that the way they would enable our intelligence agencies to really take control of digital media would be to do so through surrogates, which would be commercial companies, so that they could cut contracts with themselves. In other words, the government cutting a contract with Google, which was created by the government. So they're cutting a contract with themselves in order to have the protection of, as a private company, so it would look to the public like Google was an independent company, when in fact it was a fascist organization created by the government to spy on all of us. And so they turned around and they cut this contract with Google, which is with themselves, in order to begin the search capabilities within Google, and then give the CIA the back door into the search engine itself. That's what these documents show.
Well,
it's unbelievable.
The reason it's critical for me, Michael, is because I never included Google or PayPal in my little cluster when I'm talking about social media and the way that it was stolen from you and your company. But in this case,
it was all the PayPal guys who supported Zuckerberg in putting him up as the front man.
Absolutely. They're the insider traders who became filthy rich, especially Eric Schmidt. And so when you see Google, and when Eric Schmidt came on board, you can see then this CIA contract, which does reflect the theft of your patents, your IP. Let's just call it IP because everybody understands that. Your
trade secrets.
Yeah, trade secrets are stolen, right? And they're waiting on it. The second that they get it, they then operationalize it, and it then makes them a ton of money. So I can now include Google.
Keep in mind, they had been waiting for 2 years because of they thought they were ready in 2001, and that's when they formed the IBM Eclipse Foundation. And then we told Chandler, no, we've got some issues with scalability that we have to work out. That took another 2 years. And so they were chomping at the bit like a bunch of horses in the gate, ready to run with social media as soon as we were done. And that's literally what they did. And you can even see that in the tone of the fax that the CIA officer says, hurry up, I want to give you this money.
IBM, the lies of open source through the IBM Eclipse Foundation, has now been taken to the next step with Open Power, supposedly an open source foundation upon which all the new technology is going to be built, especially 5G. Why? Coming out of China. So IBM has always been, from the time that it became international, changed its name to IBM, and what was that? I forget the year. But the point is when they became international, they became our enemy. And so now I've always known, and everybody's always known, because they have the contracts even to this very day, that Facebook was a CIA program developed by In-Q-Tel through the Highlands Forum and DARPA to create LifeLog. And they had LifeLog operative, but it wasn't effective. But the second that they got your fixes to the
scalability, yeah, they were trying to build it with classical data structures, and that wasn't scalable enough. They couldn't get enough people on a particular web page, and that was the problem they were having. They had the concept of keeping it all in one place, but they couldn't do it in the internet space.
So remember now, Google algorithms are CIA infiltration, subterfuge, and behavioral manipulation. Make no mistake about it. These are surveillance, targeting, and attack tools. This is a cyber war that's going on. And Google, we now show you, well, we're going to show you because Michael and his researchers and the researchers in the other parts of the world and Minds Deep.
Douglas, I don't take any credit for this. This came from a researcher out in the internet who found this themselves.
Yes. Some mind somewhere in some other country,
right.
I believe. So, in fact, what we're seeing here is what I'm always trying to make sure that people understand. If you're going to be a major monopoly in the digital cyber warfare of Silicon Valley against the rest of the world, and it's actually against Talpiot in Israel, it's also against, the GRU in Russia, it's against the Chinese infiltration, which was almost 100%. So when we're talking about this kind of activity, you're talking about the people who put the back doors in, the 0 day. They take this metadata and they analyze it for their own purposes. And then they surveil, they take their surveillance, they target, and they attack. And this is the same old plan.
The issue has always been for the spies an ability to get access to all the data that's flowing on the internet in some universal search engine that allows them a view of all of the data. And that's why they don't like encryption, that they don't control. Because if you have encrypted data under this umbrella, you can't read that. And so the engine is not as valuable. And so that's why they developed this, quote, open source approach, because if they give out all this code that people would otherwise have to spend tens or hundreds of millions of dollars developing, and they give it to the companies, these companies take it, well, the deal with the devil is you've got to use our code, and whether they tell them or not, those are embedded with backdoors, which then allow this search engine to have universal access to all the data, which they call big data. But if I could change the subject for just a second, because the thing that we don't want to lose in this discovery is the person Jon Venverloh, because here we've got a Google federal negotiator with the CIA, and if you look at his resume, he, during about the same period, has also been the chief technology officer at Salem Media, which, for people who listen to conservative radio, has many of the top stars in conservative talk. They're being managed, and also conservative Christian stations, you name it, across the country. It's a very large organization.
You already called that out.
And now we see that their chief technology officer, Jon Venverloh, is the guy who cut the deal with Google. So what does that say about Salem Media?
Well, it says...
I asked the question. I don't know for sure.
It says what you've said before. You've questioned whether or not it's a free platform for free speech because of the people involved at the top are so manipulative and so connected to these three-letter agencies that it's subterfuge, it's infiltration, it is behavioral manipulation. And every single time you do a Google, whether you do Yahoo or Dogpile or whatever you use, it doesn't matter. They're all based on mimics. None of them can work, and they aren't even allowed to participate if they do not have the mechanical engine on the microchips, if they do not have the ability to come in and remotely control your computer, which means go in past all your passwords. Those are nothing. And so this has been going on from the beginning. But what this is that you have found is, it's like the signatures on the contract that show that this was planned from the beginning in this way. So as long as we remember that Google isn't just about surveilling you, because so many people say, who cares? And so what happens? We give a $5 billion fine to Facebook for taking people's private information. Okay, stupid looking, I'll just say that.
Chump change.
Mark the Zucker beast has no idea why he was even given that $5 billion fine. He was there a hearing? Was there anybody? Did the public get to participate in this? It should have been a whole lot more, because why? They based that upon the lies of Cambridge Analytica being involved in the 2016 election, and that Brad Parscale used information from Cambridge Analytica. We have proven that came from Strategic Communications Laboratories, its mother company, and that the data came from analysis done of Britons in England. It had nothing to do with Americans, and it was 280,000 people, not 50 million. And then Zuckerberg gets a $5 billion fine for that, and what does he do? Nothing. Stares at you like his brain has been bleached. Why? Because he's a total fake.
Well, that's good budget money for the senior executive service.
They probably, on the same day, as you always point out, is literally on the same day, just like this fine and the people who wrote contracts, on the same day they probably gave Facebook $10 billion in a CIA contract. But we won't know that, because these are top secret things, because of this, the silos of information in the cloud computing. There's nothing in the cloud, folks. It's in little buildings with a whole lot of servers and a whole lot of, it's nothing, and it's a lie. So stop believing the lie.
And
because this is the
AI
proof.
is not magic. AI is not magic. It's programmers programming code.
It's the
There's nothing magic about it at all.
Effort of all programmers that have been combined into the magic that you get by turning on your little laptop, your phone, or your iPad. And when that happens, what you do is you allow them to come into your life, and instead of, the Big Brother watching us, we watch Big Brother, and Big Brother tells us what to do. And the subliminal programming is beyond imagination. We've gone into great detail in this, but what I'm so thrilled about is that you found what you're looking for, and what I needed, so that I can rant and rave even more effectively and include Google in the group that stole your, and you're going to correct me, I'm going to say IP, and you're going to say...
Trade secrets.
Thank you.
Trade secrets.
Because they stole everything.
Well,
they told you trade secrets, they told your patents, later you did patent copyrights.
The patents were later became trade secrets, but you only have to remember trade secrets.
TS, trade secrets. So what we have here is, sorry folks, we've been telling you this from the beginning, and now we know that with Peter Thiel and his evil idea that all these Silicon Valley cardboard cutout cyber warlords must have monopolies, and those monopolies must be supported by the government. And we see this now absolutely clearly. And what does Palantir do? It goes into Google, YouTube. It goes into your locating you and everywhere you've ever gone, everything you've ever bought, every Facebook, anything you've ever typed on your computer goes into Palantir, and they can ask, how can I manipulate this person? And then it tells you. And then it gives you a program. You push a button, and they manipulate you. And they now know that this manipulation system effectively changed 28% of the voters in the 2016 election, because it's the same exact program being used, called Open Source Works, by Nellie Orr and by the Global Engagement Center. And now Peter Thiel made it public, called, do I say it right, Palantir. You buy this program, they teach you how to use it. I can go in and find out more about you than you know about you. And remember, the more times you Google, the more Google knows more about you than you know about yourself.
Yeah, it only takes a couple of thousand data points on any person to very accurately predict what they're going to do, also predict what they're going to think about a certain subject, and then be able to use that data to target them however you wish.
Isn't that beautiful? If you're like me in the old days doing electronic warfare against the enemy, that's a great tool. But if you're using it against domestic citizens of the United States of America, you would normally say that's illegal and those people need to go to jail, they need to be hung for treason. No, it's completely legal. But now it's not as legal as it was during Obama's time, but it's still illegal because of the U.S. Freedom Act, which is a rewriting of the U.S. Patriot Act, which took away all of your rights whether you know it or not. The Constitution and the civil rights were flushed with the U.S. Patriot Act. And that was written by people like Mueller and supported by...
That was the same people who orchestrated this theft of our code. And all of that was happening contemporaneous with this contract with Google.
And that's what we want to point out. I'm going to get some buffing pads, and I'm going to get that nugget that you've sent us, and I'm going to shine it up. And we're going to get this out to people because people need to know. The CIA controls Google. We now have the proof. Thank you, Michael.
And
the
it
researchers.
looks like they have a lot of control over conservative media as well.
Oh, good point. Because of the exact people who signed the contract. So
Correct.
Thank you for that find. We'll talk
You're
to you
welcome.
soon.